And now it's a chance to cut from the past in the sense of negativity, and now really double down on Web3 banking and solidify our position as a major player in the ecosystem.
So I'm here with Tristan, formerly EOS and now Vaulta Network.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about how that transition went from EOS to Vaulta and what are the future plans. So, hey, thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure, man. Happy to join. Thank you for having me.
EOS is one of the most hyped projects of 2018. It was, it might be number one in that era. And, you had a very infamous kind of crash out. So how do we go from there to where we are now today with Vaulta?
Actually, what happened was block producers, it's a fully decentralized network, and the block producers banded together. And they decided essentially enough was enough. Block One had not been doing what they were set out to do in the remit that they were given, but also what their promises were to the community. So the 21 block producers banded together and said, that's it, we're done with Block One. We want to get them out of the community. And then we need someone to create a foundation, a non-for-profit foundation, and then to try and steer the network, which had fantastic technology, but had been suffering from poor management, back on track. So that's where the first rebrand happens, where completely different organization, Block One was gone. Token allocation of 70 mil or whatever it was, no more token allocation, no more company running the different marketing or different business development components. Yves LaRose founded it with someone else called Zach Gall, and then they created the EOS Network Foundation. And so from that point of view, that's where the first rebrand happened, where different entity, foundation, which is not for profit, and they really tried to steer the network back on track. The way that I think about it is they basically set up a sub-DAO model. So you fast forward to just before the rebrands, to the start of this year, and there's, I'll just use the Vaulta names. There's Vaulta Labs, there's Vaulta Ventures, there's middleware, which is really set for improving onboarding experience and different components associated, and then Vaulta Foundation. So that's the same as a sub-DAO model in the sense that there are different entities that are driving together to improve performance of the network and grow and stimulate the protocol.
Okay.
So from that point of view, the first rebrand happened, but there was, still the name remained, and they didn't even own rights to, different branding components or the GitHub, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of people associated the network still with Block One.
Sure.
But the bigger part of it as well was in the background for the past 2 or 3 years or so, we'd been building towards Web3 banking foundations. So those foundations come in kind of two forms. One of the forms is from a technology point of view. Vaulta is very strong technologically. So as a chain, it's never gone down in 7 years. So wow, the reliability is 100%.
That's rare in this field.
Extremely rare in this field. And from a banking point of view, critical. And it's very cost effective. So the transaction costs are really minimal, which allows you to scale, and it's highly customizable. And that's because of the C++ programming language. But it really lacked speed. The average block time until the latest hard fork in September was 4 minutes. So if you think about a finance use case, we can't really operate with 4 minutes. So from a technology point of view, until the latest hard fork, which took it from 4 minutes to 1 second, which the latest hard fork was in September last year, the technology wasn't ready. Okay, now this hard fork, the technology is ready from that point of view. And then you look at the product suite. So at its heart, Vaulta is an operating system. But there are products and partnerships off the back of that, and we can touch on some of these. So that's the history, that's the journey, and that's where we are now.
Love it. It's a great journey. How are you building to make sure that, that doesn't, none of that happens again? And, what are you guys taking from that experience, I guess? I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but just anything specifically?
Well, no, it's a really good and valid question, right? So if you think about Block One, they were a for-profit entity that was based out of Recunions.
Yeah.
So their remit was profit to an extent.
Yes.
And where, Vaulta Foundation was born out of, or EOS Network Foundation, now Vaulta Foundation was born out of, is a non-for-profit, a foundation that is there to generate growth and performance of the protocol and of the network. So we survive and we live off protocol emissions, basically, so token emissions. So our remit is not to take profit in the same way that Block One did. Our remit is to stimulate and grow the protocol. So setting up that foundation in the first place is a big way that you move away from some of the mistakes of the past, because its whole remit is actually not to extract profit from the personal gain, is to grow the protocol. And then the sense that the foundation was set up with a very clear remit, which is about growth of the protocol and stimulation of the protocol, not for profit.
Sure.
That's important. The sub-DAO structure set up off the back of that is also in the same vein, where the remit is very much growth of the protocol, not to extract profit in the same vein. And then it is a fully decentralized network. So no decisions can be made in isolation. If one of these entities turns around and says, I want to do this, the block producers can say, you're not allowed. And then it stops. So from that point of view, it's extremely decentralized. And where, it came out of was a community takeover.
Sure.
Its first entity did poorly. The community banded together and said, get out. And that's actually, to me, the beauty of our ecosystem or our, crypto in general. Because if we think about TradFi, a board could kick out a CEO, but they can't kick out the whole company.
No.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. So getting into XSAT now, I'd love for you to elaborate more on it. Would XRP be a competitor there? And is there, in terms of the debate between is Bitcoin really something that should not be more than digital gold into these other different spaces, even scalability? I guess some people, might be ardently against that. What are the competitors there, and how are you guys working within this space now with XSAT?
It's a good question. So in terms of, is Ripple a competitor? To an extent, in many ways they are, with quite a few different brands. But Ripple has a very clear goal of overtaking SWIFT, and they're kind of going after cross-border transfers, and it's a $167 trillion market. That's Ripple's amazing. They're a pioneer, in my opinion. They've done a tremendous job for the industry, particularly the SEC.
And somehow they're still alive. Every single person counting them out.
Exactly.
And there they are.
And they fought the SEC and basically classified, altcoins to an extent as not securities. And that's really done a great role for all of us. So XSAT to an extent can do cross-border transfers. So as a solution, they can do cross-border transfers for different companies. Vaulta actually announced a partnership with Virgo Pay, which is a solution for Virgo CX, which is an exchange and a group that does a bunch of different services. But they're launching Virgo's Pay, which is a cross-border transfer solution. And then Vaulta Mainnet is the default settlement transaction layer. So there is a bit of competition there, but there isn't. 167 trillion is a big pie, right? And Ripple goes after, the biggest banks in the world.
Yeah.
And they have the right to do that because they've been in this space since 2012. So from that point of view, XSAT to an extent can be a bit competitive, but not really. XSAT is a scaling solution and Bitcoin digital banking service provider. So the scaling solution side of things, XSAT offers Bitcoin staking. So you could say a competitor there is Babel, right? So everyone knows about Babylon.
Yeah.
You provide staking services. So it's a competitor to that extent. But then also there's DApp development on the network. So it also then to an extent competes with layer ones. Then there's also, Bitcoin banking services and different solutions that you can provide. So you could compete with Bitcoin banks to an extent. But really how we think about it is we don't compete with anyone in the Bitcoin ecosystem. There's so much room to grow. We prefer to partner and integrate with different people. So there's a lot of building and development that's going on. So from a Vaulta perspective, it's just solidifying our positioning as a Web3 network by more integrations, more partnerships, and more products that align to Web3 banking. Whether that's building out different POCs for cross-border payments, for settlement layers, for different products or solutions that can plug into banks. So that's a really big focus for us. So whether it's neobanks, crypto banks, or, kind of some of the larger banks. So really building out POCs, because I previously worked for a bank and you have to kind of really walk before you can crawl, before you can run.
Sure.
So it takes time. So you build out some POCs with some more crypto projects to then go to a bank and solidify the discussions, which can take 6 to 9 months.
So measure twice, cut once kind of thing with banks. They're very slow. Yeah.
They're slow and fast. They're slow in the sense of they will take their time to make a decision, but they're fast in terms of competitive edge. This competitor does it, I'm going to follow suit. So very much that, a lot of business development focus going on, and we're also deepening our reach in other networks. So we work quite closely in the BNB and BSC chains. So you can give token holders the ability to do complex DeFi, not just in our ecosystem. That's important to us. So there'll be other ecosystems we kind of target off the back of that. From an XSAT point of view, that's where a lot of the product suite comes from. diversifying some of the product suite so you can borrow and earn and lend, spend, and that's very much big focus for XAT as well. Is lots of development, lots of products, but it's an ecosystem that's recovered from the drama of the past.
Yeah.
And through Yves LaRose and Zach Gall and the founders really steered it back to a really positive direction.
Yeah.
And now it's a chance to cut from the past in the sense of negativity, but stay true to the past in terms of fantastic technology and the ability for the ecosystem to scale. And now really double down on Web3 banking and solidify our position as a major player in the ecosystem.
Got it. Well, Tristan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an incredible story.